Now, some aspects for micro and macroeconomics concerning the question of economic modeling and policy. Moving from macro to micro or from micro to macro, let's to say the next. If we look at a simple law of supply and demand or a simple supply and demand diagram, okay, we can constate all the changing or the increasing in any parameters. Microeconomics is concerned with issues such as the impact of an increase in demand for RC, okay, that is the return, okay, for cars by kids, for example. This microeconomic analysis shows that the increased demand leads to a big price and good quantity or big quantity. However, microeconomic analysis looks only at all goods and services produced in the country. Now, the macro diagram is looking for real GDP. Or in our last or previous last lecture, we came to talk about it concerning GDP. We have real GDP, okay, and nominal GDP. We already said about it. But now, what is real GDP? GDP, that is a quantity of goods and services, okay, produced in the country, okay, produced in the country, but the evaluation of these goods and services at in the times of the calculation. We call real GDP. Okay? Now, there are three work streams, okay, within these subs programs. First, that is macroeconomic policy, microeconomic policy, and economic modeling. Macroeconomic policy, that is in any cases anywhere around the world, macroeconomic policy seeks to coordinate the use of this policy tools so that they distribute sustainable human development outcome. A part of the broad level of policy, macroeconomic policy impacts on employment, investment, and economic growth, and so on and so on. Okay? For us now, we must only to take note, we have some policy we called macroeconomic policy. Okay? It concerns a second branches of economics. The purpose of this works streams in the identity of macroeconomic policy option available to the country. Assess different options in opposition to development and honest work goals, and make recommendation to break form on policy issues. Microeconomic policy. Mainly, policy deals with policies under fire at the development of economic sector, mainly farm, enterprises, or households. It means or it aims to make certain promotion in investment in the real economy. We see the concept of a real economy, where we produce only real material commodity, okay, that you call real economy. And now, the purpose of this work stream is to identify the available microeconomic policy options, appraise different options against development and managed works, okay, goals, and make recommendation to cabinet on policy and implementations issues. According economic modeling, I want to say only one element. Economic modeling is the use of mathematics, okay, for to show many economic, okay, situation, to show using mathematics, okay, economic situation, economic some economic complexes, system, and so on. A formal and quantified framework for example, in the country, okay, we can use mathematics for to show the increase in price, for to show the decrease in production, for to show the less capacity of people to buy commodity, of capacity for people to live, to live, okay, in the country, in, for example, today or in any time of people activities. Now, in economics we have some concepts. Mainly is a concept of stability, when we're going to use macroeconomic stability or microeconomic stability. That is inclusive growth and employment, for example, okay? The recent financial crisis around the world proved that you have the decrease in consuming, okay? We have the decrease in price, the increase in price, but the increase in production. Okay, we have a situation of non-stability in economy of many countries. Saying about policy, okay, micro policy, okay, we have a situation of coherence for economic growth. We can enumerate the next. First, E, okay. Second, that is B, we call scale matters, okay. And next, that is C, we call C, when we have successful countries, okay, have logical macroeconomic employment rate, that is normal, okay. And the D, okay, we have current policies concern many, okay, accomplished state, okay, recur in the country. Now we have 4, okay, policy coherence for economic growth in the country. We call A, we call B, we call C, and we call D. Policy makers, we can say that is will have to pay particular attention to agricultural sector, to public investments in the social sectors, and most importantly, the employment, such sphere of growth in order to achieve inclusive development paths. Over half of the labor force in many developing countries works in agriculture. Yes, that is really. For example, in your own country and try to answer to this position. You must see that in many countries, mainly African countries, mainly Asian countries, okay, a big part of person works in a primary sector of economy. We call agriculture mainly, okay, mainly. We have any other policy, macroeconomic policy, for example, fiscal policy, okay, that is taxes policy or tax policy. In many countries, okay, tax policy forms, okay, the budget of country, the more money to form a budget of country. Mainly, the more part is fiscal tax and duties. That is around 50% of all budget of country. The question is to know how does fiscal policy affect macroeconomy. Yes, we have, that is a primary effect. We have an impact, okay, an impact of the change in fiscal policy and the situation on the macroeconomy. Yes, fiscal policy affects aggregate demand. Fiscal policy affects aggregate supply, and so on. Fiscal policy affects the level of income in the country. That is correct, is right. And with time when fiscal policy affect directly aggregate demand affect the allocation of resources and the producing capacity of any country around the world. That is correct, is right. Okay, we can say only we have direct, okay, fiscal policy, okay, and macroeconomic system in the country. That is right. That's correct. Now, let's do some conclusion. Okay, some conclusion. First, the field of economics. Okay, I please you to see carefully. Macroeconomics is a branch of economics. That is correct. Macroeconomics is too a branch of economics. That's correct. The question of what's the difference between both sciences and what is the similarities between both sciences. We already said about it. We have some differences and we have some similarities. These questions are generally concerned, okay, macroeconomic and macroeconomic analysis because of the focuses of people, household, for example, market in the economy, or economy of a country has a world. Is the rate of inflation increasing or decreasing? Okay, the increase in price or decrease in price. We have many questions. What is happening to the unemployment rate, for example? Okay, for example, in our country, in your country. okay, in your country. What is happening, okay, to the employment rate, to the employment situation in your country. Any question we came to answer to our today's lesson, okay, you can find in any web pages, okay, you can read the recommended books and so on for to find any answer to our today's lecture. Okay, dear students, do we know the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics? I please you, okay, to work with the practice courses concerning our today's material. Okay, thank you very much and see you next time. Okay, bye bye.